So recently within the Halo community, there has been a discussion over what the better model is for a Halo game. Is it paid DLC such as map packs, or are free content updates superior? The debate over whether paid DLC or free content updates are the better model does not stop with Halo, right? This extends to many different games. And in this video today, I'm going to share which of the models I prefer, but I'm also going to explain why it makes sense for people to prefer paid DLC and why some people prefer free content updates, because it does make sense both ways. But it seems like some people act like the free content updates are just objectively better. Like there's no logical reason to be in favor of paid DLC. Some people look at it like free content updates are just like paid DLC, except they're free. How could you not be in favor of the free model? It's free. It doesn't make any sense to want to spend money when you could get those things for free. But the two things are different. They are very different, and I'm going to explain why in this video. I don't know if people are just intentionally pretending that they don't understand the benefits that come with paid DLC, or if people are just really that oblivious, and I'm starting to think it's the latter. But there are absolutely benefits of paid DLC. But first, let me say this. I completely understand why somebody would prefer the free content updates, right? The free-to-play live service model with free content updates, right? I understand why somebody would prefer that. The most obvious reason why is because it's free. It's free. It's not a surprise that some people will prefer the free option. I get it. It makes sense. I understand that. I understand that as somebody who prefers paid DLC, such as map packs. I can see why others prefer the free content updates. But it seems like every time I see somebody who is in favor of the free content updates with the live service model, it seems like they can't wrap their head around why other people would be in favor of paid DLC. But it makes complete sense why some people would be. And again, I'm going to explain that in this video. You know, from listening to both sides of this debate over what the better model is, I've noticed something. I noticed something that many people would agree on when you apply it to other scenarios, but they completely forget this when it comes to gaming. And that is that in many cases, a free item is not as high quality as the paid item. You know, that's a general understanding that many people would agree with. But when it comes to gaming, it's like people completely forget this. Oh, it's free. It's the same as the paid stuff, except it's free. It's the same thing. It's free. Why would you want to pay money when you could have it for free? Like, they completely forget that. Like, what? What happened? And so I think you understand where I'm going with this. In many cases, not all, you know, there's a couple outliers, but in many cases, the paid item is better quality than the free item. Like, why do people forget this when it applies to gaming? It's no secret that back in the day, paid DLC, such as map packs, was more common than it is today. Now, a lot of games have transitioned over to the live service model with free content updates. And, you know, in many instances, the game is also free to play, but sometimes the game is also pay to play, $60 game, $70 game, and then they do the live service with free content updates. Now, when it comes to the live service model, whether the game be free to play or not, the game usually has microtransactions, right? And developers generate a lot of revenue from these microtransactions. And it's also common with these live service games that the game will receive free content updates, things such as free maps or free game modes being added to the game. And so, because the paid content is things such as weapon skins, character skins, emotes, weapon charms, things like that. There is more of an incentive to make that stuff high quality, make that stuff flashy and attractive, so that people spend money on those items. And then with the free content, maps, modes, whatever other free content comes with these updates, there's less of an incentive to make that free content good because it's free. And if anyone wants to argue that the developers do have an incentive to make that free content good, to keep players on the game, well, then I'd argue that it's already been shown that people will continue playing games long term, regardless of how good the free content updates are. Like, I can think of several updates for Apex Legends that pissed off a lot of people in the community, like maybe a new map was added that people didn't like, and yet a ton of people still played the game. There's been some new maps for Valorant that people weren't too fond of, and that game still had a huge player base. I'm not sure how many big content updates CSGO has gotten in recent years, but that game just hit an all-time peak of concurrent players. It's the most played game on Steam, despite it being an older game. So just because a game isn't getting content updates, or the content updates suck, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to drive all the players away. But regardless of that, there is more of an incentive for developers to make good maps, to make good modes, when that content is paid DLC as opposed to free content. And I, for one, value the quality of maps and modes over the quality of weapon skins, character skins, and, you know, all that other cosmetic crap. Like, I want there to be more of an incentive to make the maps good than the cosmetics, and I'm sure many others would agree with that. And for the most part, I've noticed the decline in map quality for various different games over the years, like newer Call of Duty games. There's a lot of maps in the newer COD games that, you know, they might be prettier, they might be more detailed, but overall, they play worse than older COD maps. And I think you could attribute that to the fact that maps have become free content for many games now. And I also feel like developers have realized that the quality of maps doesn't necessarily sell a game. Like, people will buy and play a game regardless of how good the maps are. But for me, maps are very important. Like, a game can have the best graphics, the best ranking system, best progression, best everything. But if those maps suck, man, is it going to be hard to get me to play that fucking game. I can, and there's been recent games with some fucking horrible maps. Modern Warfare 2, Halo Infinite. Like, even if those games were fantastic in every other way, it'd be hard for me to play those games because of how dog shit the fucking maps are. So just to reiterate, because I really want to drive this point home, I want everyone to hear this. When the content has a price tag on it, there is more of an incentive to make that content good content. When the content is free, there is less of an incentive to make good maps and good modes. And just think back to Halo 3, with maps such as Foundry and especially Sandbox. These maps took Forge to the next level. Before these maps were added, Forge in Halo 3 was pretty bare bones. There was only so much you could do with it. But after Foundry, and then definitely after Sandbox, people were creating some really cool things in Forge. A lot of the most memorable custom games were played on Forge maps from Sandbox and Foundry. Now, if Halo 3 adopted the live service, free content update model, and there were no paid map packs, I think it's a good chance that Bungie wouldn't have gone the extra mile to improve Forge with Foundry and Sandbox. They might have just played it safe and just, all right, here's a couple maps, here's a couple more, And they would put more effort into the microtransactions for the game, which would most likely have been things like paid cosmetics. And again, and I'm sure many others, would rather have really good maps get added to the game as opposed to flashy cosmetics. When games such as Halo, Battlefield, COD, Gears of War, and various others used to be sold as $60 games with no microtransactions, developers would monetize the game post-launch with paid DLC, which was usually map packs. And because that's how developers would earn revenue from the game post-launch, there was more of an incentive to make that paid DLC good. Even the trailers for those map packs were good. Like, I went back recently and watched some old Halo map pack trailers, COD World at War trailers. They were awesome, especially the World at War trailers. Like, the music, the characters, like, it was so good. Like, I watched those trailers and I wanted to buy the map pack again right now. It was so much fucking better. I easily prefer paid map packs over what we get today with free content updates. I mean, if the free content updates were of the same quality as these map packs that we got for games back in the day, then, and we got those free content updates as frequently as we got the map packs back in the day, then yeah, then I would choose the free content updates because it's the same thing but free. But that's not currently what it is. Currently, the free content updates, in many cases, they're few and far between, like with Halo Infinite. And in many other cases, the maps and stuff aren't as good. Now, the next thing I want to point out is regarding microtransactions, but before I do, I just wanted to mention that throughout this video, I am referring to map packs as paid DLC, right? I'm not referring to those as microtransactions. If you say they are technically microtransactions, whatever, I'm not here to debate that, call them whatever you want, but in this video, I'm referring to the map packs as paid DLC, and, I'm referring to microtransactions as like the smaller cosmetics that we see for sale in games today, such as weapon skins, character skins, emotes, weapon charms, things like that. So when it comes to microtransactions, a lot of people say they hate them. They hate microtransactions in video games. They're against it. Well, some of those people say they hate them, but then they proceed to spend a ton of money on microtransactions. So, there's that. But I wonder, how many of these people who say they don't like microtransactions also prefer the free-to-play live service model? Because with live service games, with free content updates, like free maps getting added to the game, the devs rely more on microtransactions to generate revenue from that game post-launch because there's no paid DLC. So they make their money post-launch with microtransactions. So when a game has free content updates, there is a greater chance that that game is going to have microtransactions. So when people say they don't like microtransactions, but they prefer the live service free content update model, it might not be contradictory by definition, but it's kind of close. Like, you're saying you don't like microtransactions, but you prefer the model that has a greater chance of having the microtransactions. Yeah, fuck map packs, fuck paid DLC, screw the days of no microtransactions and quality map packs. Yeah, those days were awful. But again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I can understand someone feeling that way if they couldn't afford or just didn't want to buy the map packs back in the day. I get it. I get why someone like you would prefer the free content updates. But again, don't act like there's no logical reason to prefer paid DLC. Like come on now. When a game has paid DLC, such as map packs, developers make money from those map packs. Now, I'm not saying that means the game won't have microtransactions. No, it probably will have microtransactions because that is additional money that the developers will make. But it is less likely that a game with paid DLC will have microtransactions than a game that is free to play or live service with free content updates. I mean, there are games that exist that had paid DLC but no microtransactions. I'm not sure there is a game that exists that is live service with free content updates and no microtransactions. I don't even know if that game exists. I mean, the only game that I can think of right now which has gotten a live service type of treatment but doesn't have microtransactions is actually Halo the Master Chief Collection. But first off, even though MCC was supported for several years with these seasonal updates, and MCC might see more updates in the future, it's just that the updates have slowed down for the game now. But yeah, even though the game was being supported for several years with seasonal updates, you know, I've talked about how I really care about new maps, and you know, how many new maps did MCC really get? The only new maps I can think of were Icebox, Edge, and Waterfall for Halo 3. I don't think there was any for the other games. But yeah, it's like, yeah, the game was getting these seasonal updates, but if it was like an actual live service game, you know, I think maybe it would have gotten, you know, more new maps. So the live service with MCC was kind of weird. Especially considering the state that the game launched in. And that's another thing. Like, do I really give 343 credit for supporting this game for several years like they did, considering that the game was one of the worst video game launches of all time, and it was unbelievably broken for several years, and it was being ignored? Do I really? I mean, the seasonal updates that we got, that to me, that's just making up for the several years that the game was broken. Now, another reason why I personally really liked map packs is because usually when a game like COD or Halo would get a map pack, that it would also come with a map pack playlist, a playlist that you could search and just play the new maps. And I loved those map pack playlists. I love just being able to play the new maps. Now, typically with games nowadays, when they get free maps added to the game, sometimes it's only one map, one or two maps, and so sometimes it might not even be enough maps to have a playlist for. But also, games don't always have a playlist when they add the new maps where you can just play those new maps. Sometimes they do it, but other times they just throw those new maps in. That new one, maybe two, sometimes three maps, they just throw that into the playlist with, you know, all the other maps that you've already been playing. And so you can't just search a playlist and just play the new content. You gotta search whatever playlist already exists and hope you get the new maps. So a playlist where you can just play on the new maps that were added to the game, that was a much more common thing when we got map packs for games. And again, that is something that I personally really enjoyed. Now, the most common argument I've heard against map packs is that they split the player base and locked people out of certain playlists. And I'm not exactly sure which games back in the day would lock players out of certain playlists if they didn't have the DLC. I know Halo 3 did this, and I'm not just talking about locking people out of the map pack playlist, because that's understandable. You don't have the DLC, so you can't play the DLC specific playlist. But what games like Halo 3 did is it would take playlists that players used to have access to, and it would bar them from searching that playlist if they didn't buy the DLC, because the DLC maps were added to that playlist. And I agree that is fucked up. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. That's dumb. Like, you can't take these playlists that people used to be able to search freely and now tell them, oh, well, now you have to spend money to search these playlists. No, that is stupid. I agree with that. But that's not an issue with them. That doesn't have to be an issue with map packs. That could easily be solved. Just let them search the playlist if they don't have the maps, and they just match other people without the maps. Like that's all you gotta do. That's not a reason why map packs were bad. locking you out of the playlist because you don't have the DLC, like that's a separate issue. That doesn't need to be a thing. Like that doesn't, like map packs can exist without that system. So I agree with people there. Like that is a dumb system. People should not be locked out of playlists that they used to be able to search because they are not willing to buy the DLC. But again, map packs can easily exist without that system in place. Like that system does not have to be there. So don't tell me that's a reason why map packs, why paid DLC is bad. And when it comes to the argument that people bring up about map packs splitting the player base, I don't know, with the old Halo games, the old COD games, you had more than enough players where it didn't really matter that you split the player base. People without the map packs could still find games. People with the map packs could find games. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal because those games had a huge player base because they were good games, popular games. But even if that was an issue, like if it really did split the player base and people without the DLC like couldn't find games anymore, like even if that was a thing, it would still make sense why some people would prefer map packs, right? People that bought the map packs, they wouldn't have been affected by that issue because they had the new maps. So again, like you might not prefer the map pack system. You might not have bought the map packs back in the day and you like free content, but it still makes sense why some people like paid DLC. People act like there's no good reason to be in favor of the paid DLC over free content, but clearly there is. Now, the last thing I want to discuss in this video is regarding the frequency at which we received map packs for these games back in the day, for Halo games and Call of Duty games. Because that's another thing, because when developers are relying on those map packs to generate revenue for the game post-launch, there's not only is there an incentive to make those maps good, but there's also an incentive to push those map packs out faster. So with a game like Halo 2, which released in 2004, 10 months after the launch of that game, it had 9 new maps added to the game after 10 months. And those 9 maps that were added to the game were added within about a 2-month window. 9 maps, 2 months, 2004, like that's pretty fucking impressive. COD 4 got 4 new maps added to the game about 5 months after launch. Halo 3 had 6 new maps added to the game about 7 months after launch. Halo 3 had a total of 13 DLC maps. COD World at War had 12 maps added to the game after about 9 months post-launch, and those 12 maps were added within about a 4.5 month window. And the World at War map packs consisted of 3 multiplayer maps and 1 zombies map, and I assume even more effort has to go into the zombies map. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the MW2 that released in 2009, had 10 maps added to the game after about 7 months post-launch, and those 10 maps were added within about a 2-month window. Halo Reach had 13 maps added to the game after about 14 months post-launch. Call of Duty Black Ops 1. This game got 20 maps added to the game through DLC after about 9.5 months after launch. And those 20 maps were added in about a 6.5 month window. 6.5 months. And the game received 20 maps through map packs, through paid DLC. 20! 6.5 months? Dude, that's fucking insane. That is crazy. And the Call of Duty Black Ops 1 map packs consisted of 4 multiplayer maps and 1 zombies map, except for the last map pack, which was 4 remade zombies maps and a brand new zombies map. Take me the fuck back. And then we got Halo Infinite. How many maps? How many maps? How many? It's a fucking joke. Hey, I just wanted to add this part in while I was editing the video. I did record this before Season 3 for Halo Infinite had began, so if you hear me talking about Season 3 as if it hasn't started yet, that is why. Also, one day after I decided to record this fucking video, 343 revealed a surprise map for Season 3. So we actually got 3 new maps for Halo Infinite Season 3 instead of 2 new maps. In this video, I was saying we were getting 2 new maps because that's all we knew about until they revealed the 3rd one. But even though we're getting 3 new maps instead of 2 new maps for Season 3, that doesn't change the point I'm making at all. So, yeah. Halo Infinite got 2 new maps added to the game with Season 2, which was about 6 months after the launch of Halo Infinite. 6 months for 2. And we're not getting our next 2 maps until Season 3, which begins March 7th. So that means that was about 10 months in between Season 2 and Season 3. So once Season 3 begins, March 7th, we will have had 4 developer-made maps added to the game, right? And developer-made maps are different than Forge maps. Forge maps, there's more you can do with developer-made maps than Forge maps, even though Halo Infinite's Forge is really good. But yeah, that's from the launch of Halo Infinite to Season 3, that's about 16 months, 4 maps. How as somebody who values maps in a video game and the quality of those maps, of course I'm going to prefer the way things used to be with paid map packs, because I enjoyed those maps a lot more and we were getting maps more frequently. At least with Halo, that is. I'm not sure the rate at which Call of Duty has been releasing maps, although I know with the newest COD game, Modern Warfare 2, it has not been doing a good job with releasing new maps. So I mean, that's another thing. You could say this is just, oh, Halo Infinite, that's just a Halo Infinite issue. Well, I look at the most recent COD game and Season 2's here, and we didn't even get a new map in Season 2. Well, a new 6v6 map, that is. We did get a new Battle Royale map, but, you know, I'm somebody who prefers the multiplayer, the traditional multiplayer, and technically we didn't get a new map. I mean, we got 2 areas from the Battle Royale map added as ground war maps, and then we got Dome, which is another area from the Battle Royale map, and that was added as a 6v6 map. And then we got a map that returned from the beta, because it wasn't in the final game because of legal issues, and so that map from the beta made its way into the game finally. Hey, so I wanted to add this part in as I was editing the video because we are actually finally getting a brand new 6v6 map added to Modern Warfare 2 with Season 2 Reloaded, which drops on March 15th. Might already be out by the time this video gets uploaded. But that doesn't change the point I'm making at all, because that's just one brand new 6v6 map when the game has been out for several months. In Season 1, we got Shipment, we got Shoot House, so that's nice. But again, I mean, those really are, they're not new maps, they're returning maps, and, you know, Shipment is barely a map. So yeah, so far, the latest Call of Duty game hasn't been doing a good job with adding new maps, and neither has the latest Halo game. I mean, Halo Infinite's been doing a horrible job with adding new maps. Again, 16 months to get a total of 4 maps, and the maps that we're getting with Season 3 of Halo Infinite, those maps don't even, visually, they don't look like anything special. They look pretty bland. Just UNSC facility, some rocks and dirt. Like, I mean, it's Halo. You can be a lot more creative with your fucking maps in Halo. But it just seems like 343's playing it safe, or they just don't care. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I've explained myself thoroughly as to why I prefer map packs over the live service free content model that we see with so many games today. Now, I'm not saying that with map packs, like, the maps within those packs were guaranteed to be good. But again, there is more of an incentive for that stuff to be good because it's paid DLC. That's how they were making their money post-launch. And many of those maps I really enjoyed back in the day. A lot more than the newer maps we see get added to games today that are free. So I personally would love to see map packs return. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Well, I mean, first we got to get some good games because games have been really shit lately, man. Like really fucking bad. Like, you know, not even close to what they used to be. So we need to get some good games first. But yeah, I definitely would be in favor of map packs returning. But again, I also understand why some people prefer the free content. I get it. I understand it. But it makes sense for other people to favor paid DLC. It all makes sense when you really just think about it for like half a second. It all makes sense, you know? So anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.